Happy Monday. Thank you for joining me for my Marvelous Monday. I am going to be working with the frosted forest, and I have a cat that's going to jump down here in just a second. Let her pass. Sorry about that. And let me open a door. I apologize. That's a great way to start. Um, she sleeps up on one of my cabinets, and I never know when she's going to come down, and I can't get her down. So it just isn't possible. All right. So I'm going to try to do the Frosted Forest. I shouldn't say try. I'm going to show you how to make three really beautiful cards from the Frosted Forest bundle. As a reminder, this is an online exclusive item. So it's available online only. There's not a place in the catalog where you can see it. So that's why I thought it was really important for me to show you how versatile it is, not only for just any time year round, because it's got some fabulous sentiments, but also because it's great for fall, great for Christmas. So let me show you. All right. So I am using the Thoughtful Journey Designer Series paper for two of the cards. And so I just wanted to show you, they're just really, really versatile. There's some really beautiful pages. I'm going to use this one for this card right here. So it may not look like it, but if you see right here is this same, and I used it because it kind of gave a little bit of a fall feel to it. And of course, this card right here is, there's so many papers, like the back of this one. This one here, actually turned upside down, is, oh no, it's not this one. So, but it is one of them that would work. It's this one turned upside down. So you can see that I used this for this card. Anyway, there's just lots and lots of possibilities with this really beautiful cardstock. And I think that it's a great pairing with this. And just as a reminder, Thoughtful Journeys is available 15% off just for another few days till the 31st of August. So make sure you have a chance to pick some of that up. Okay, so this is the Frosted Forest bundle. So it's not just stamps and dies. There's also some templates that go with it, or decorative masks. And so I'm going to show you how to make one of these cards with a decorative mask. But the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to make this card and just show you so simple of a way to make it. I love silhouettes, always have. And this is a great silhouette card. And then we'll get into the masks with the next card. Okay. So for this card, I actually had made a bunch of them because I needed them for birthdays and thinking of you. We had a couple of friends that lost family members or friends, and we wanted to send them cards. And you can see that these just kind of all give a different feel. Like this one I sent as a birthday, but I also made thinking of you for their grieving, and but it makes a great guy card. So this is the part that I struggle with so much, is making cards for guys or more masculine cards. And so this is just a really great option. Okay. So what I'm using is I'm using a 4¼ by 11-inch piece of cardstock, and I'm scoring it at 5½ inches. And as you can see, so this is the card or the designer series paper that I'm using. And you can use this either way because you can just tell it's got some great ways of going about it. But I'm putting this really beautiful red down here at the bottom. And then I can use this part for the envelope. Okay, so let me just put this here so you have that example. All right, now let me get the other items that I'm going to need. So what I did is I cut, I believe this is 4¾ by by 3.5 inches. Let me just check this again. Yeah, so 4 3/4 by 5, or 4 3/4 by 3.5 is the size of the designer series paper. Now what I'm using is so I have a layer of this is the Cajun Craze, and I thought it was the closest to kind of just I mean I could have used Real Red or the cherry cobbler, but I felt like the Cajun Craze would just make it a little bit more masculine for now and not give it a seasonal feel to it. But you can see that it just pairs really nicely with it. And then I'm going to border it. So this piece here is 5 inches by 4 inches. And then I'm making another piece that is 5 1/8 by 4 1/8. And so that way I get a really skinny black border. It doesn't overwhelm it, but it's really, really pretty. So I'm going to show you how I'm using this die right here. And the nice thing about this die, just let me show you, is that it cuts it, but it doesn't cut at the bottom. So you could make it a wider border and have a place to put your sentiment. So in other words, instead of cutting it down here at the bottom, which is what I'm going to be doing, I could cut it higher, and then you could heat emboss on black or cut it out of a different color and stamp your sentiment down below. So that's something that I've seen somebody do. So let's just get my stamp and cut and die machine. Okay, so this die is actually 4 3/4, and that is part of the reason why I chose that size, because I wanted it to pretty much take on that whole piece and go all the way across. And as usual, I'm staggering my plates because it just goes through the little die cut machine better that way. And it's not quite in the right place. I don't want my trees at the end. There we go. I don't want them too far at this end. I could have used some tape. That probably would have make that go a little faster. And if I want to make multiples, which I did, then I just take the die and flip it around, and I can cut. So this is a little piece that's 3 1/4 by 4 3/4, and it's able to make a couple of them. Okay. Hey, Linda, thanks for joining me tonight. All right, and because it's so close, I'm just going to go ahead and just trim off that last little bit and then take out some of these pieces. The die works really well. I don't have to run it through multiple times, which makes me happy. And so hopefully you can still see me. We just lost power. So let me know if you're still able to see the video. I'm really sorry about that. Let me try. It's not showing me. camera stopped working with that power surge. So hopefully you can see it. Oh, good. All right. So as long as you can see my hands, that's the most important part. But it looks like it lost the camera. Um, so that's okay. We don't need to see me. The most important thing is to see my hands. I tell you, it's been so hard to get this video out because last week my husband wasn't here and I was getting the scroll from forever and I wasn't sure how to fix it. And of course, unless my household tech guy, which is my husband, is here, I'm a little lost on how to fix things. So I'm probably going to have to reboot to get my camera to work again. That's okay. We don't need it. All right. So then I'm just going to take some of this glue. And just as a reminder, this is something I found, or a friend of mine sent me from YouTube, or Amazon, sorry. And I just put this glue here into it. And so it's just the same glue as the Stampin' Up. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue at each one of the branches where they fork. And you can also use the adhesive backed paper, but I think that just gluing it is fine. I haven't had any problem. It didn't make a mess because this little thing is a really good applicator for small areas. Okay. We have a really big storm going on right now, and I understand that the storm is hitting Wisconsin as well. So Linda, you probably are having it as well. I can hear it out there just going crazy. I really need a rain barrel, I've decided, because I do keep one of my watering cans under where there's a whole lot of water coming down off of our garage roof, and I use it for watering. It fills it up really nicely, but I think a rain barrel would be even better with a spout. So, okay. So this, again, and I'll put this on my blog, is 3.5 inches by 4 3/4, and then I'm putting it on a piece of cardstock that is 3 3/4 by 5, and then the black piece is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So I like something that is just 1/8 of an inch bigger for really pretty narrow border when I'm just wanting a hint of color. And I like the black just kind of framing this really pretty silhouette. It just looks like a really gorgeous sunset. Right. And I like the 1/4 of an inch of the Cajun Craze because I think it just also makes a really pretty border. So again, just a great masculine card. And you know what? I put that all together without stamping, which is really naughty. But because I only have flat layers under it, I think it'll still be fine. Okay, so this is where I'm going to use one of my, this is a empty white craft pad that I used Memento ink in because I like the sponge ink pad. So such a great card, really, really nice. And then another item that's from the online exclusive is the pecan pie and the white or pearl clear ribbon adhesive back dots. And let me just show you what that looks like. So it's got kind of a little silver foil ribbon in it that kind of gives it a little extra shimmer. But I like these little flat dots because they just have this really nice flat feel to them, and they go through the mail so much better. So I'm making one of these look like a moon or something, or some stars. And I'm going to put one down here low on the horizon. You can do it any way you want, but just a couple different options here that I like. All right, so that's the first card. Oh, I do need to add it to a card base. Sounds like a train is running outside. I'll tell you, it's going crazy. Hopefully we don't. Oh, thanks. Yeah, you've got it coming, Linda. I watched the radar. It's head your way. Okay, and then I can easily make a nice little envelope to go with this. And I had one here, but I'll work on that later. So, like I said, you just use the other part of the paper and you can cut this off and use this for your envelope flap. So it works really well. Okay, so that's the first card. Now the second card that we're going to make is this one here, and this one uses the mask. And as a reminder, I'm using this piece from the Thoughtful Journey Designer Series paper, and it's 15% just for a couple more weeks. And what I'm taking is I'm taking a portion, like this one I had to cut down here. So again, this is 3.5 by 4 3/4. So I just figure out where I want it. Like I wanted the grass in the background for my tree. This tree doesn't really have a place when you stamp it to end, so I always like to stamp it off. And then the other half of this paper I'm going to use now. So let's move these out of the way. So this will be for my envelope flap, and I used the upper part of the same paper for my envelope flap on this one, because this one has more of the blue and the purples, and this one has, as you can see, it has more of the orange Cajun craze. And even though the sky has it, I still think there's just enough hint that I'm using the Blackberry Bliss paper as my other layer. Okay, so here's my envelope for later, my card base, and then I've got something for the sentiment. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my tree in Mossy Meadow. So this is one of those bigger stamps. So you're going to have to kind of go back and forth until you feel like you've got your tree stamped. And again, I want the bottom of the trunk to go off my paper. Okay. All right. So that gives you the outline of what your tree is going to be. So now you need to secure this to your work surface. So I'm using some of this Post-it note. All right, and so this is where your decorative masks come into play. And there's 2 sets in here of 3. So one of them is Christmas trees, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit here. But the other one is your tree. So it comes with numbers up here at the top, and I'm not sure if you can see that, but 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to use the number 1 first because I want to outline where my trunk is. So I want to line it up with my trunk, my little limbs. So now I'm going to use some bigger pieces of tape so I can secure my template in one place. Now, the nice thing about these templates is they have these little grooves. Do you see the notch up here at the top? This notch makes it so that you can continue to figure out where you are. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it with a marker here. That way I can tell where it is that I had it, because I can't do the rest of the tree with a trunk on here. So, okay, so I'm going to use one of the smaller little blending brushes, and I'm going to use Early Espresso. And now I'm just going to color in my tree. And for cleaning these, I found that wiping them doesn't work. The best thing to do is just run them under cold water, and they clean up really nicely. So this lets me get my tree trunk nicely colored. Okay. Let me just add, I know this is permanent marker, but this does come up nicely. So that way I know exactly where I need to put my other layers. Okay. So the next one I'm going to use is number 2. I'm just going to line up that little notch. And it looks like, there's all this color back there. How's it going to go away? Well, what you'll find is that your ink is actually going to cover it up really nicely. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my old olive first, because I'm just going to get an overall green to my tree foliage. And I'm not going to go crazy on the dark. Just want it to have enough green that it kind of, and it can be a little darker in the middle, a little lighter on the edge. But I'm just making sure that I go around all the different edges. Now this one I can leave on and finish the final bits to my tree, but I'm not going to stop just with the blending brush. I'm going to use my little what are those things called? Sorry. Okay, so now I'm going to start with my lightest color. All right, so I'm going to use crushed curry, and these are little, it's going to just add a little bit of yellow to the tips of my trees. And again, don't worry about the color in the background. Somehow it just really works out really nicely. So I'm just adding a little bit of yellow, which actually kind of looks a little more orange. I did have pumpkin pie in here, but I just found that I didn't need it because the crushed curry had enough of the orange in it that it worked just fine. Okay, so now I can use this is Blackberry Bliss. So this just adds a little bit of color. And then the last one, and again, I'm going to line it up. This I'm going to use Mossy Meadow with, and I'm just going to use my blending brush again. Kind of gives it a little bit of a darker under. This one I used the Blackberry Bliss, but I think I'd rather use the Mossy Meadow just to give it a little darker green, so that it's like there's a shadow. So it takes some experimenting, Okay, so I'm just going to come back with just a tiny bit more of the Blackberry Bliss. Around the edges. It's going to go over just to kind of give it a little bit more color. Okay. So you can see that it just really covered up the image behind, and it doesn't matter what was behind it. It just makes for a really pretty fall tree. And then I'm not sure if you have these from last year, but autumn leaf dies, I went ahead and used the little maple leaf and cut it out of the scrap that I had from this. So, and you can use either side. So I could have used this side, which is the same paper, or you can use this side. And I thought this one would look really nice with it. Okay, so now I'm going to glue it onto my Blackberry Bliss paper. And just as a reminder, um, the Blackberry Bliss is 4.5 by 3. Okay, so this piece was 3 inches by 4.25. And so this is 4.5 by 3.25. So I misquoted a little bit. Okay, and then I'm putting it on the white card base. It gives it a really pretty matted look, kind of like it's a piece of art. And I'm just going to glue it down. All right, then we're using a strip of basic white, and I'm using a 1/2 inch piece, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment, thinking of you and how you strengthen my life, in the Blackberry Bliss. And this is when I love having clear photopolymer stamps. Okay. Now this piece is longer than this, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, and this piece is 3/4 of an inch, so it's just a 1/4 of an inch bigger. But I want this to be in the middle. I can trim it with my scissors. Use some large dimensionals. Make sure you put the sentiment right side up instead of upside down. I'm just going to use one more dimensional for the leaf and have the leaf overlap sentiment just a little bit. And then we're going to add the I'm not doing very well picking these up. I trimmed my nails again, and that's always happens. So put that there. If you can get it to scoot over, then it kind of releases it. There we go. And now that one's done, and I can just add this to my flap and then trim off the excess, and it'll make for a great card. Okay, so that's that one done. All right, here's the first one I did. Using my projects. There we go. Okay. All right, so for this last one, I experimented a little bit, and I have to tell you that I had a really hard time with the masks for the greenery because my intention was to make it into snow. And I looked at other people's examples, and I think they were having the same problem. So this is the card we're going to make. And as you can see, it's got the sparkle from this shimmery white embossing paste. And what I wanted was to use the stamps with the stencils. And you can make a good looking tree if you look behind the snow here. But what happened is when I added the snow, it turned the snow green, which isn't really what I'm looking for. And I even added like another layer of the white shimmery paste afterwards, and it still just bled through. And this is even after it was dry and there was some time. There was a little bit of white that stayed white, but it's so deep. It just kind of really made it hard. And then of course you need to die cut it out. And I ended up fussy cutting this one because when I tried die cutting this out, it tends to want to flatten it. And what I was using is I was using the mask to add the snow because we've got these three different ones again. So like your lightest color you would use first on these two. And then you would use a darker color because it kind of sits just under all of these limbs. So it just kind of gives it a little bit of a shadow underneath. And then this one is supposed to be snow. Well, I couldn't get it to work without bleeding through. So instead, I went ahead and used the dies from the set. So I used these two dies, and they cut out these really pretty lacy looking trees. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the shimmer paste to it just directly. So what you want is you want a scratch piece of paper, and I recommend not using even your silicone mat because you're going to find you're going to have sparkles on your silicone mat for a long time. Because even if you wash it off, you'll find yourself with sparkly silicone mats forever. So just as a warning. Maybe you've had more success than me, but mine still has sparkles on it. Okay, so when you have your shimmery paste, you might want to get a piece of cellophane to add as a barrier because it will dry out once you've opened it up. Okay, so what I do is I use, they have these tools and they're just little pallets, or not pallets, but goodness, don't remember the term. And then I just dab it. So when you dab it, you're going to find some places have a lot more than you want. But I ended up liking the look of it when I was done. So let me just show this to you. So you can see it just means snow is kind of random. It's not going to always lay nicely. And you do need to kind of hold on to it. So either with your pick a tool or your fingernail, whichever works. And we're going to set this aside while we put the rest of the card together. So I just have a little bit of that shimmer paste on the bottom side of this tool. And then you can just use a tissue to clean it off for now, and then you can run it under water, but it does harden, so you may have to do some scrubbing. And you're going to be covered in all the shimmery for a while. Okay, so let me put this, close it up, and you're going to want to close it up tight. And I do suggest that you use, so we're going to put this aside, and we'll put the card together. Okay, so this is the new basic beige cardstock. And again, I'm just making this into a die card. It's not necessarily for the holiday, but you can add a holiday sentiment. And then instead of the thoughtful journey, I'm using the Country Woods Designer Series paper. I'm trying to figure out where this goes together. Okay. So this is a 5.5 by 3 3/4 piece of Designer Series paper. And what I did is I cut it into 1 1/4 inch pieces. And this is actually from Casing the Catalog. And let me find the page so that you can take a look at that. So this one was from page 120. I love the group, Casing the Catalog, so because they come up with these great ideas, and I use this as part of my team challenge. So we took this card here, and of course they did some fun folds with it, and I didn't. I'm just placing these in 3 strips. So it's 1 1/4 inch strips that work perfectly on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock. So that's all we're doing. We're not making it complicated, and because I'm wanting to show you guys how to make a simple card that is great for masculine. Okay, so I'm going to start with both ends and work into the middle. And what I'm going to do is just make sure there's about 1/4 inch to the left of the Designer Series paper on both sides, and then we'll center the third piece. So again, these are 1 1/4 each by 5.5. You'll be able to just stick the third one right in the middle. You'll just want to make sure that you keep the grain the same if you're using the same Designer Series paper, but you can use it however you want. So when you're casing something, you can keep it exact or you can change it a lot, and we're changing it. But we still have, the sentiment tag. So let me just bring this up so you can see. We have 3 elements, which if you look at my sample, you can see it's got the tag, the 3 elements, and the 3 panels. I just don't have the ribbon going across. So you can just use any sample you like in the catalog, and even if it doesn't quite move you, but it gives you some new ideas, I would say give it a try. Okay, this is another piece of the Designer Series paper. I just think it's so pretty, and it easily lets you stamp right on it because it's so light. And I'm using my espresso, early espresso, and I am stamping this sentiment on it. This is such a beautiful sentiment. And it could still, a card like this can still have happy birthday on the inside and be just a really wonderful guy card. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up my sentiment with dimensionals. I could have used a fancy border for it, but why make it harder than it already is? And then let's see if our little dry. Okay, so I'm going to just use glue dots for these two little ones. Because glue dots work really well for something that's got kind of a lacy pattern to it like this. And then this one. Probably could be a little drier, so be warned. You could have frosting all over the place. Okay, and then the last one, I'm going to use my mini dimensionals, and I'm just going to cut some in half. And then I'll probably need some little tweezers. And I just want enough back here to hold it up. And I wanted this one popped up just to kind of give it a little extra dimension, because I'm also wanting it to tie into everything else that's there. And I'm not putting any embellishments on this one because if you look at the shimmer paste, I'm not sure if it's showing up very well, but there's actually some sparkle to the shimmer paste because it's got a sparkle to it. But I just thought, you could just put a Christmas sentiment there and you'd have a really beautiful card. All right, so that's the 3 cards that I was showing you today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I took a little bit longer, about 45 minutes instead of my typical 30. That seems to be happening more and more. So And I don't want to discourage you. I do try if you want just some trees and you don't need them to have the snow on them, I think that the templates um, they work really well because this last one is definitely meant for snow. So I think they would work really well for that, or masks. Sorry, I keep calling them templates. But this is a great bundle, and it's just got all kinds of versatility. There's so many other things I could do with this. And with all the mountain hikes my husband and I have been doing lately with waterfalls and stuff, I think this will probably play into some of my scrapbooking as well. So, all right, have a great evening and a great week, and I'll see you soon.